Welcome to this explainer. If you are gearing up for a DevOps or system admin interview and you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by configuration management jargon, well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're going to demystify Ansible. We're going to break it down using very simple words so you can walk into that interview with total confidence. We aren't just going to memorize answers here. We're going to make sure you truly understand the concepts driving this incredible tool. Okay, so let's start by picturing a scenario. It's a highly relatable one that really sits at the absolute core of why Ansible even exists. Imagine you're at your desk and your manager drops by and asks you to install the Apache web server on 100 different Linux machines. Without automation, you're manually opening an SSH connection, which is just a secure way to remotely log into another computer, running your install command, logging out, and then doing that exact same thing for server number 2, server number 3, all the way to 100. It's tedious, it's frustrating, and honestly, it is a massive waste of your valuable time. The contrast between the old way and the Ansible way is just staggering. The manual way means opening those 100 secure tunnels and typing yum install until your fingers literally ache. But the Ansible way, it's just one elegant command. You simply tell it to target all servers, use the yum module, and ensure Apache is present. That's it. Ansible transforms hours of mind-numbing logins into a single task that manages all your Linux servers simultaneously. You save hours of time, and you completely eliminate the chance of making a late-night typo. So, here is our roadmap for the explainer today. 1. The manual server nightmare. 2. Architecture and setup. 3. The Ansible toolkit. 4. Playbooks and YAML basics. And 5. Ace your DevOps interview. Kicking things off with Section 1, the manual server nightmare. The crucial takeaway here is that without a tool like this, server management is fundamentally broken at scale. Manually hopping from server 1 to server 2 to server 100 is a losing battle. And it's not just about speed, right? Human beings get tired. Maybe on server 47 you make a typo. Or worse, on server 82 you accidentally shut down the wrong database. Ansible exists to replace that human error with robotic precision so you can actually get your day back. Moving right along to Section 2, Architecture and Setup. The entire architecture of Ansible relies on a really simple hub-and-spoke model. Right in the center of it all, you have the control node. This is simply your primary server. Say it's sitting at IP address 192.168.0.100. This is the only machine where you actually install the Ansible software. Think of it as the brain of your entire operation. You sit at this node, and you orchestrate absolutely everything from this one spot. And radiating out from that single control node are your managed nodes. These are the dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of target servers that are receiving your commands. And here's the kicker. You do not install Ansible on these machines. They just sit there, basically like loyal soldiers waiting for instructions to arrive from your control node. Setting up the communication between your brain, the control node, and those managed nodes takes just 4 really simple steps. First, you install the core package on your control node. Second, you generate an SSH key. You can think of this key as forging a highly secure, uncopyable VIP badge. Third, you hand out copies of that VIP badge to your managed nodes. This means they'll instantly recognize and trust your control node without ever asking for a password. And finally, you just list the IP addresses of those managed nodes in a special file called your inventory. And boom, you are ready to automate. Let's dive into Section 3, the Ansible toolkit. We just touched on the inventory, but let's break it down a bit more. Your inventory file, which lives at /etc/Ansible/hosts, is basically your ultimate address book. But it doesn't just list a bunch of random IP addresses. It lets you group them logically using handy brackets. So you can put all your web servers under a web bracket and your database servers under a DB bracket. That way, when you want to update just the web servers, you just tell Ansible to target the web group. It keeps things incredibly organized. Now, modules. This is where things get really fun. Think of modules like the individual apps on your smartphone. When you want to order food, you don't write custom code, right? You just open the food app. Well, in Ansible, you don't write complex scripts. You just use the yum module to install a package or the service module to start a program. Need to check how much free memory a server has? Just use the command module and pass it standard Linux commands. Modules are essentially your specialized, pre-built tools for every administrative task under the sun. Okay, lean in for this one because this is a massive tip for your next interview. When you run the Ansible ping module to verify connectivity, it is not doing a standard network ICMP ping. A normal ping is basically just shouting, "Hey, is your computer turned on?" But Ansible's ping is way smarter. It actually logs in and verifies two specific things: that the secure SSH door is open and that the Python programming language is installed. Why? Because Ansible actually needs Python to run its modules over on that remote machine. If an interviewer asks what the ping module does, tell them it verifies SSH and Python. Trust me, they will be super impressed. All right, moving into section 4, playbooks and YAML basics. So how do we actually run all these modules? Well, you've got two main choices. First, you have ad hoc commands. These are quick, one-line commands you just type straight into the terminal, like quickly checking a server's uptime. They are fast, but they're really just for one-time use. On the flip side, we have playbooks. Playbooks are designed for complex, multi-step deployments. Because they are saved in a file, you can reuse them, share them with your team, and track them in version control. If an ad hoc command is a quick snack, a playbook is the full recipe for a 5-course meal.
To put it really simply, a playbook is your master script. It sequentially runs those app-like modules we just talked about. So you might have the playbook that first uses the yum module to install Apache, and then uses the service module to start it up. It executes these tasks in perfect order, reading them from a beautifully structured YAML file, all kicked off by running the Ansible playbook command.
And what exactly is YAML? It stands for Yet Another Markup Language. The best part about YAML is that it is incredibly human-readable. It almost looks like plain English. But you have to be super careful with your spacing. YAML relies entirely on visual indentation to figure out how your data is organized. If you type a dash, you are creating a list, kind of like a grocery list. If you type a colon, you're creating a key-value dictionary, like assigning a name to a person. Just keep your spaces perfectly aligned, and YAML is an absolute breeze to work with. Before we wrap up the technical concepts, let's talk about where Ansible's core brain is kept. Think of the config file as the main settings menu of a video game. It lives at /etc/Ansible/Ansible.cfg, and it's where you define all your default preferences. You can tell Ansible where to always look for your inventory file, what default user account to log in with, and even set handy tricks like turning host key checking to false so you don't get an annoying prompt every single time you connect to a brand new server. Finally, let's bring it all home with Section 5, Ace Your DevOps Interview. This is the big one. If you get an Ansible question, it's very likely going to be this: why is Ansible called an agentless tool? When they ask this, they want to know if you understand its biggest advantage over older configuration management tools like Puppet or Chef. See, those older tools required you to install a heavy agent, a background software program constantly running and eating up memory on every single server you're managed. So when you get this question, you can look them right in the eye and confidently answer that Ansible requires absolutely no background agents or daemons on the managed servers. Why? Because as we've learned, Ansible just uses the server's existing built-in secure door, SSH, on port 22. It walks in, does the job, and leaves no footprint behind when it's done. It is clean, it is secure, and it is incredibly lightweight. That is the true magic of being agentless. We've officially demystified the architecture, we've broken down the modules, and we've prepped you for those tricky interview questions. You now have the knowledge to turn hours of manual pain into a single 1-second click. So with these core building blocks now securely locked in your mental toolkit, what massive, tedious nightmare in your daily workflow are you going to automate first? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and happy automating.